Now when you're correcting your spacing, if you just have spaces in the anterior teeth, this is just done with power chains. Okay, you have a space from canine to canine, you go ahead and place a power chain from canine to canine, and it closes the spaces. When you have spacing in both the anterior and the posterior, we often use power chains, but we'll often add in class 1 elastics. Again, power chain, they're just O-rings linked together in a chain, one loop per tooth, go from canine to canine, your 6-unit chain, that will close your anterior spaces. And don't forget, if you place the last unit of that power chain on all 4 tie wings, those canines can rotate mesially. Ask yourself, do you want that to happen? If you do, by all means, do it. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. However, if you do not want those teeth to rotate, then what you do is just tie on the 2 mesial wings only. This will help prevent those canines from wanting to rotate mesially on you. Okay? So again, just tie on those 2 mesial wings. Then you're less likely to have those canines want to rotate on you. So here's an example of power chain in use. We have a midline diastema. We placed a 6-unit power chain, and by the next visit, the space is completely closed. They work very, very, very quickly. Don't forget the power chain rules, okay? Many doctors, instructors will tell you do not place power chain on nickel titanium arch wires. I'm telling you, you can, but you have to follow the rules. Otherwise, you can get a lot of undesired side effects, undesired tooth movements. So on an 014 nickel titanium, no power chain. On an 016 nickel titanium, you place 2 or 3 units for rotation correction. On an 018 nickel titanium, you can use up to 6 units in the anterior for space closure or rotation correction. And in the posterior, up to 4 units for space closure or rotation correction. Any more than that, particularly molar to molar, wall to wall power chains, you gotta be on steel arch wire. You gotta be on steel to prevent unwanted side effects in those situations. So when you have anterior spacing, again, you can just use your power chains on the anterior teeth. So we have spacing, canine to canine, take your 6-unit power chain and close the spaces. Now, when you have spacing in both the anterior and the posterior, if they're small spaces, we typically use just power chain. But if we have larger spaces, we will often use power chain in combination with what are called class 1 elastics. What I like to do in these situations, if I have anterior and posterior spaces, I close the space from molar to first bicuspid bilaterally, and I close the space from canine to canine. What I've done now is I've turned it into a case that has 3 teeth. I have 2 posterior teeth, and I have anterior tooth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to smush those 2 together. Okay? I'm going to move the posterior teeth a little bit forward, and I'm going to move the anterior teeth a little bit back to close that residual space between the canines. Now remember, where did I say if I'm going to have extra space, I want it to be? Distal to the canines, right? This is why you want to lock the front 6 together. Many doctors have been trained to, place your power chain from lateral to lateral, but then your extra space is distal to the laterals, which is not as aesthetic. So canine to canine and the posterior teeth. Now what I will do is I'll just measure, okay, how much space I have between the canine and the first bicuspid. If it's less than, say, 3 millimeters, I have no problem just placing a molar to molar power chain and closing up the spaces. Okay? Now, if you have a situation where there's bigger spaces, what I like to do instead of placing a power chain is to place a class 1 elastic. A class 1 elastic is merely a 1/4 inch 3-ounce elastic that's placed from the molar tube to an arch wire hook that's clamped onto the arch wire in between the lateral and canine tooth. And the reason I prefer these to power chains when you have these larger spaces is, power chain's elastic, right? It's going to lose force fairly quickly. After about 3 weeks, it's pretty much done. Whereas with these class 1 elastics, we give the patient a bag of the elastics. I tell them, change these elastics at least 3 times a day. So what I'm doing is I'm giving my patient a constantly renewed energy force that's going to push those front teeth and back teeth together to close that extra space. It's as if the patient is changing the power chain for me. Now, if you have a patient who's non-compliant, okay, by all means, just go ahead and place a power chain. But what you might want to do is have the patient come back every 3 weeks at this stage if you're doing it with the power chain, because after 3 weeks the chain is shot. Okay, that'll just kind of speed up the overall treatment time. But giving these patients these class 1 elastics really does help. Or if you have a patient who maybe comes from far away and they can only come in every 6 or 8 weeks, then you give them this and it's like they've changed the power chain themselves. Okay, so class 1 elastics. And here's what a class 1 elastic looks like. Again, it goes from the molar hook to an arch wire stop that's clamped onto the arch wire between the lateral and the canine tooth. They literally have these arch wire hooks and a plier. You put it right on there, squeeze, and it clamps it right on there. Wear a 3-ounce, quarter-inch elastic. I tell the patient wear it 24/7. You can take it out when you eat or brush. And I tell them to change it at least 3 times a day. So it's always being renewed. Again, that class 1 elastic is also going to bring the front teeth and back teeth together to close that residual space in a very short period of time. If you have a non-compliant patient, or you don't think they're going to be compliant because they've broken brackets, been a bad brusher, whatever, do the full power chain, okay? But you might want to have them come back every 3 weeks instead, just for a power chain switch, just to make sure that they're not having a week or so where nothing's happening.
To make sure you don't miss any of our Powerprox pointers, please subscribe at 6monthbraces.com/orthotips. To learn more about our live seminars for Powerprox 6-month braces, please visit 6monthbraces.com/live-seminars. To learn more about our unlimited case support and online seminars, please visit 6monthbraces.com/online-seminars. If you prefer to call us, our phone number is 440-646-1000. To learn more about our laboratory services for Powerprox 6-month braces, which include digital bracket placement, 3D printed indirect bracket bonding trays, digital case setups and treatment simulation images so you and your patients can both see the case results before you even start, IPR guides so you know the exact amount and location of any IPR that you may need, and a lot more, please visit 6monthbraces.com/Powerprox Lab.